My name is Haley Osborne, and this is my reflection on the material that we've learned so far this semester. Just briefly, this is what I've found the most interesting so far this semester was process addictions in general, Griffith's components, and also balancing these process addictions. So for process addictions in general, I knew there was such a thing as gambling disorder and sex addictions, but I didn't know that they were under the title of process addictions. The old me thought that addictions were from laziness or tunnel vision, like they only saw that they needed that one thing and nothing else could help them around that, which is kind of true still, but I also notice now that emotions have every connection to deal with any addiction. And also after being educated, I realized like what these addictions are coming from and how the addict views the addictions. Also, I've learned that like under the category of sex addictions, there's also love addiction, cyber sex addiction, pornography addiction, and also under the title of internet addictions, it branches off also into like social media addictions, online gaming. There's just a lot more than just one broad general topic. Each subgroup is also really important and really interesting also. I feel like learning the 6 main components of addictive behaviors is really important if you want to work with the population of addicts. For me personally, that's not really the population I want to work with, but for this class it was very helpful. Salience is when the person is seeking the drug and the behavior takes over other activities in their life. Euphoria would be the next step, and it is the pleasure feeling from the drug that's being taken. There's also tolerance, which is the constant need of more. Withdrawal is another component, which is the unpleasant feeling with like alcohol and drugs. It's usually a physical feeling, but it's also the same with our process addictions that we've learned to like anxiousness and stress. There's also conflict within an addict's life with family, employers, social life, social society. And then there's also relapse, which is when the addict has given up the drug, but then it's easily taken back over. It doesn't even have to be easily. Somebody could be sober for 4 years and then can regain their addiction. Learning which step the client or guest would be in when you're talking with them is really important because you kind of understand where their mindset is during their addiction. I found it really interesting that process addictions cannot be fully quit, unlike alcohol or drug addictions. Understanding that finding the proper balance to make this addiction healthy is extremely important. Like I said earlier, drugs and alcohol, you can quit and keep them out of your lives, but you cannot stop eating and you can't just stop exercising. So finding that balance and to make it healthy versus an addiction is extremely important. Also, working with these clients I feel like it's more about internal thoughts and the emotions that lead them to use rather than just taking that substance away because, again, you can't do it. So a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy I feel like would be extremely useful when having clients that are fixated with process addictions. I've really enjoyed learning all of our process addictions because they're all new to me. But the love addiction and specifically was something that I've absolutely never heard of. And it's just purely emotional and psychological. And yeah, it may lead to physical addiction, but it's just really interesting to know that somebody like wants love that bad that it can be an addiction. I just found this really interesting, and I kind of could relate it personally, like not to me, but people that I've known in my life. Not saying that they were actually an addict, but I saw signs, and it just was really interesting to see how that could be an addiction and agree with it once I was remembering my past and stuff. So some of the ways that this class has improved my interaction with the client would obviously be knowing Griffith's components to give you a more informed view of the client's addictions. Also being aware that process addictions are usually coinciding with alcohol or drug addictions as well. So the next time that I'll be with somebody who's suffering from drug or alcohol addictions, I can kind of look closer to their life and see if anything else is going on, and vice versa. Somebody with a process addiction, I can look a little closer and see if they have a drug and alcohol addiction as well. Also, like sensing the emotional struggle that the client has been carrying around, I feel like I am a little more closer to that emotionally, realizing that it's not a choice, it's an addiction, and it's a disease. So this slide is a little bit about how I've changed personally from this course and other courses. But first, I feel like you should know how my view was on addictions. Growing up, my dad was an alcoholic, and he was also addicted to pain pills. He served in Vietnam, and which created PTSD for him, which is why he used. But I always just thought that he was choosing the addiction over my siblings and I, and being a good father. Now, after this course and other courses that I've taken, I realized that addiction isn't a choice, it's a disease. And it really hurts me to know now what he was struggling with internally, and that he felt the alcohol and medication was the only way out. So I feel like I understand an addict's internal motives now a little bit better, and how their emotions can take over for coping mechanisms. I also feel, I know that all addicts aren't the same. My dad never fully recovered, and he always would relapse, and so I know that not all addicts are like that, and some will achieve and become sober, and also people start the addictions for different reasons, and not just putting every addict in the same category is definitely ways that I've changed so far in this semester.